Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scotty.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 139 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined by the man that is returning. It's Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, welcome back. How are you?
I'm very good. Yourself?
Very good, my friend. Very good. We missed you on half of last week's show. Of course, you were there for the preview part. You were there for part two. But part one, I was doing it all on my own. So it's good to have you back. Let's start, though, with the reviewing from last week. There is quite a bit to go over. We're going to start, though, in Illinois, in a venue called the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, USA. Two fights to mention on this bill, actually. The brother of Kubrat Pulev, Tavel Pulev, he moved to 11-0. It was a TKO in round one against Armando Ancona, who's now 8-8 with 2 draws. Like I say, Tavel Pulev now 11-0. The main event over here, though, Mike Lee, he moved to 21-0. He also picked up the vacant WBO, NABO light heavyweight title. In the other corner was Jose Hernandez, 19-3. His record now 19-4. He's also got 1 draw. That was a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. So Mike Lee marches on. Another win under his belt there. Moving over now, though, to the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York, USA. One fight to mention over here, really. It was a Golden Boy boxing card. Diego De La Hoya, he moved to 21-0. He successfully defended his NABF Super Bantamweight title and also his WBO NABO Super Bantamweight title. In the other corner, Jose Salgado, 36-4 with 2 draws. Actually, Salgado retired on his store after 7 rounds. He didn't want to come out for round 8, so quite an impressive looking win there for Diego De La Hoya. A man that I guess when he's really stepped up the level, he hasn't really been knocking people out. He's kind of, I think people are criticising him because he doesn't really carry that power up when the levels go up in terms of the opponents, and he manages here to get a retirement, so a KO win officially there, so a good win for him. Moving over now, though, to Belgium, actually. One fight to mention over here, a rival, I'm sure, for the future of Katie Taylor. This woman's name, Delphine Persoon. She moved to 41-1. She successfully defended her WBC World Female Lightweight title. In the other corner, Natalia Aguirre, I think it said. She now has a record of 8-11 with 3 draws. I know that sounds quite poor for a world title fight, but of her 11 losses, she's never been stopped. So to be honest, she may be one for Katie Taylor, someone that can take Katie the distance, especially in a 10-rounder. That would be quite good for Katie, but other than that, I'd like to see the unification here. Moving over now to Germany, one fight to mention over here, Filip Hrgović. That's, of course, the 2016 Olympic bronze medalist in the heavyweight division. He moved to 5-0. He TKO'd in round 4 his opponent, Filiberto Tovar, who was actually undefeated himself, 9-0. He's now 9-1. Hrgović takes his O there. I believe Hrgović has knocked everybody out he's faced apart from one man, and that man, of course, being Mr. Big Sexy Sean Turner, who we will be speaking about in just a moment's time. Moving over now, though, to Germany, another part of Germany. This happened, I should say, in Saxon. What do we have over here? Enrico Colin, former world light heavyweight title challenger. He moved to 26 wins. He's got 2 losses. It was a unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Andrzej Pokumiko, who's now 17-14 with 1 draw. A relatively easy win there for Colin over 8 rounds unanimously. Moving up the bill once again, the main event here, Jack Kulkai, he picked up win number 24. He's got 3 losses. He also won the previously vacant EBU European Union middleweight title. In the other corner, Adesat Rodriguez, 17-7, now 17-8 with 2 draws, a TKO in round 6 for Jack Kulkai. Moving over now, though, to Manchester Arena. Of course, this bill was branded "He's Back" because it was the return of the Gypsy King, but we will get onto that fight in just a moment. The undercard here, let's just run through this. A couple of fights that weren't televised. Zelfa Barrett, he returned to the ring after, of course, losing his O to Ronnie Clark. He managed to pick up win number 20. He's, of course, got that one loss, and it was a points win over 8 rounds against Edwin Tellez, who's quite a tough journeyman, actually. So, quite a good thing, I suppose, there for Zelfa to get the rounds in. An 8-round points win for him. Also on the bill, this one was televised. It was the first fight on the live card. Nathan Gorman, 12-0, took on big sexy Sean Turner, a man that had a record of 12-2. It's now 12-3, and going into this fight, he'd never been knocked out. His 2 losses were by decision, and like I say, one of them was to Hrgovic, the Olympic bronze medalist and quite a big puncher himself. He couldn't knock out big sexy Sean Turner. Boy, oh boy, Ayaz, Nathan Gorman showed out here and managed to get the TKO in the 3rd round. How impressive is that? Seeing as an Olympic bronze medalist couldn't do that. He could not get the guy out of there when he fought him, and Nathan Gorman did it in as early as 3 rounds. That's quite a statement there. He moves to 13-0. Nathan Gorman stays undefeated. Very, very impressive. We all went to the prediction league and all said it was going to be a knockout, even though I was a little bit sceptical on the basis that this guy, big sexy Sean Turner, had never been stopped. And I don't think Nathan Gorman's the biggest one-punch knockout artist. However, he systematically broke his man down and looked very impressive. Ayaz, what did you make of Nathan Gorman's performance?
Yes, Nathan Gorman, well done to him. I mean, obviously he performed very, very good. I mean, what a knockout he did and what a statement he did, obviously. Now, the fight that everyone's going to be looking forward to is him, hopefully, versus Dubois in the future.
Yeah, for sure. The fight itself, though, I mean, Gorman started very well. Straight away, he was really letting his hands go, especially his left hand, actually. He's really showcased some brutal left hooks to the body especially. He was going to the head as well, but he just seemed to be landing uppercuts as early as the 1st or 2nd round, and he was able to bloody Sean Turner's nose in the very 1st round. In the 2nd round, we saw more of the same really from Gorman, and in the last few seconds, of course, he dropped Turner with a peach of a right uppercut that travelled a long way from the waistline pretty much right up to, up to Turner's chin. And Gorman really pushed off the canvas with it. He really, threw the shot right through his legs. He really pushed through his feet and hit him with a real peach of a right uppercut, like I say. And Turner did kind of get saved by the bell in that 2nd round. In the 3rd round, of course, the final round, Gorman came out looking for Turner and just completely swarmed him. And after some one-way traffic and a little bit of a beatdown, the referee jumped in and saved Sean Turner. So an unbelievable statement, like I say, there from Gorman. The bookies thought he would actually go the distance this fight here. Of course, Turner, like I said, he'd never been stopped before. He'd never even been down. And Gorman, like you said, Ayaz, he actually wants that Dubois fight. Straight after the fight, he was calling him out pretty much. And you can't blame this kid. I mean, he's ticking all the boxes. He's not afraid to call out these other guys. And he's still a young guy himself. And he seems like a guy that has got such a bright future, but he's not afraid at all to mix it straight away. So he's everything that, true boxing fans appreciate. So I'd like to wish him all the very best, to be honest. Moving up the bill once again, Mark Heffron moved to 20-0. He also picked up the WBC International Middleweight title. He took on Andrew Robinson, a former foe of Frank Buglioni. His record now 21-4 with 1 draw. I was expecting a bit of a war, really, but, Mark Heffron was just able to negate everything that Andrew Robinson did, and I believe that's quite a statement there for Heffron, because it was a bit of a step up in class for him, I thought, and he just completely dealt with his man here, so very impressive win there, a 6-round TKO. Also on the bill, we saw James Metcalf. He took on Aita Nieto. It was for the vacant WBC International Super Welterweight title. Once again, James Metcalf in some ways stepping up in class here, and he managed to get the TKO late on in the 12th and final round. So a brilliant win for Metcalf as well. So another prospect for the future certainly to watch. He's now 18-0. And what will we talk about first? Terry Flanagan's fight, I think. Terry Flanagan, of course, 33-0. He was, of course, the longest unbeaten streak of all the current British boxers. Of course, 33-0. He fought here for the vacant WBO World Super Lightweight title. In the other corner, Maurice Hooker, 23-0 with 3 draws. Once again, Ayaz, like I said on last week's show, when the first fight didn't happen on the 14th of April, we all kind of had a little bit of extra time to look at Hooker. And I think a lot of people with that added time actually thought, do you know what? This guy is not just one of those talked up Americans. This guy actually has got a little something about him. And, I mean, what we saw in the fight itself, it was a cagey opening few rounds, I felt. I think that both men were just kind of jabbing. They weren't really doing much else. It was very cautious from either guy. And no one was really taking any risks. I felt that Flanagan was actually trying to show a bit of intent. He was looking to double up occasionally with the straight jab and the backhand to the body of Hooker. When Flanagan sustained that gash, though, on his forehead, and he also had a cut eye, both of those in the same round from head clashes, very unlucky. The fight then really changed, and I felt that Terry had to get... I suppose he got a little bit desperate. He had to kind of dig deep there, and Terry... had to kind of definitively take control and put the pressure on to Hooker, but it just didn't really happen. Hooker didn't get over eager. Hooker boxed cleverly and allowed Flanagan to come to him, and it was a really close fight going into the championship rounds, but I just felt that Terry Flanagan didn't seem like himself in there. And of course, you know, Maurice Hooker, to his credit, he's a big, tall guy, very rangy, and he fought a very smart fight. He stuck to a game plan, and he deserved the win in my eyes, ultimately, over 12 rounds. So, real hard luck, actually, for Terry Flanagan, because I really did like the guy. I mean, he's one of those guys, like I say, that he doesn't really have the one-punch knockout power. He's not a knockout artist, and for that reason, he can kind of get knocked a little bit. He doesn't really have the buzzing personality, and I remember that we had him on the show. It was a couple months back now, before the first fight was supposed to happen, and he actually came out of his shell, and I thought, do you know what, there's a lot to like about this guy. He kind of opened up to me a little bit, and he certainly gained a fan in me. I was already a fan of him before that, to be honest, but I really liked him a lot more after speaking to him, kind of thing. And I'm very saddened for him, because like I say, Frank Warren was so happy that he actually owned the guy with the longest unbeaten streak, because it was actually at one point Kell Brook, and then of course he lost to Gennady Golovkin, and that was that. And then it was Terry Flanagan. Well, now Terry Flanagan, of course, losing his he couldn't move to 34-0. He was 33-0. The longest unbeaten streak now of all the current British fighters is actually Josh Warrington, unbelievably, because of course he upset the odds against Lee Selby. He's now 26-0, so he's now the fighter with the longest unbeaten streak, and he of course is also with Frank Warren, so for Frank it's not the worst thing in the world. And I think number 2 is, if I'm not mistaken, I think that is Billy Joe Saunders. I think he's on... Sorry, I think I've got that wrong. I think Billy Joe Saunders is 26-0, and I think Josh Warrington's 27-0. I believe that's right. I'm going to check after, but I believe that's right. So still, Frank has got the top 2, and I think even maybe Tyson Fury is now 25-0, something like that. So I think he's got the top 3 undefeated streaks, and then I think Cal Yafai is about 24-0, so Eddie Hearn gets his guy in there as well. But yeah, I felt very, very bad for Terry Flanagan, Ayaz, and not to go too much off topic, I'm just going to throw it over to you, really. Lackluster performance in some ways. He just couldn't really get into his groove against Hooker. Like I say, we didn't know too much about the guy, but he was a lot better than a lot of top people actually gave him credit for going in.
Well done to him, obviously. He performed very good on the night, but I mean, unlucky. Flanagan's done very good. Obviously, he's fell a bit short. But I think, obviously, from that loss, he'll learn, and I think he'll come back again and stronger. And I think he can still become a 2-weight world champion.
I certainly hope so. I'm not sure if there's any calls for a rematch. I'm not too sure, but, you know, you've kind of got to look at that 140 division now, and it's kind of hotting up quite a bit. I mean, obviously he was moving up in weight, and I don't really know if 140 suits him physically or not. He will know the answer to that question more than most, or more than everyone, really. And I just don't know. There's not many opportunities now at 140. Obviously, there was when Terence Crawford vacated all the belts, but they've all kind of the opportunities have kind of opened up, and the doors have all very quickly closed. I mean, like I say, we've got Regis Prograis there. You've got the likes of Josh Taylor really closing in now. And I just don't know if there's going to be an opportunity for him, but I hope so. But I think the best thing for him is probably the rematch. He would need to fight a lot better than he did in that fight on the weekend. But I think that's probably the easiest option for him to get back in, into the world title mix. But at the moment, I mean, on that performance, I don't think people are desperate to watch his next fight just based on that, unfortunately. So very hard luck there for Terry Flanagan now. And like I say, all the very best to Maurice Hooker, now 24-0 with 3 draws, an unbeaten world champion. He's certainly achieved his dream. I think he's got 8 children. They'll all be happy. It was a split decision over 12 rounds. Very questionable, that, actually, because in my eyes it was clearly a unanimous decision for Maurice Hooker. One dodgy scorecard, in my opinion, there. And the return, like I say, of the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. He's now 26-0. I made a mistake saying it was 25. He's now 26-0. His opponent retired on his store after 4 rounds. It was a little bit of a joke, really, Ayaz, wasn't it? I mean, Tyson Fury, we all were happy to see him back. When he actually fought on the night, he didn't seem to be in the best of shape. I know he weighed in about 19 stone 10, which was a little bit surprising. He seemed like he was a little bit more trim than that before he took his top off. There's still more weight to come off him, of course. There is still more time for him to get into proper shape, and it was really a victory in itself just to see him back in the ring after all that time out, because he did, of course, have to face some serious adversities, and he's come through that, and just to see him in the ring, it was just a brilliant thing, wasn't it, Ayaz?
He's come back after a long layoff after beating Vladimir Klitschko, and obviously he's been through that. Didn't he went through depression at one point as well?
Yeah.
He went through depression. I mean, a lot of things happened to him in his life. So, I mean, I'll give him credit. Do you know why? We know that for a fact it wasn't the best performance with him, okay? At the start, it was a bit funny when you saw him, he kissed him right in the lips. Of the fight broke up in the crowd, and obviously Tyson Fury's looking around. You can see he's still not in good. He's in shape, but he's still got a lot of weight to lose. Now, from my opinion, obviously, when I saw the fight with Tyson Fury, for him, it was just like he was just messing about. It was like he just wanted to be back in the ring. You can see he's got that back and desire in the ring. Obviously, obviously he was just playing about with Safari, but at the end of the day, in the 4th round, Safari, they pulled him out. He didn't want to go forward. I think in the next 2-3 fights, we're going to see the best Tyson Fury. We're going to see the Tyson Fury that we knew when he fought in the past. That's the Tyson Fury we're going to see coming back. This is just a Tyson Fury that just needed to get a bit of ring rust. Obviously, we're going to see him fight on the undercard of Carl Frampton, which is going to give him more, which is going to clear a lot of that ring rust. So I think this is a good, okay fight for him. Obviously, the guy thought was at cruiserweight and moved up to heavyweight. A lot of people say it was a joke fight. In my opinion, I don't think it was a joke fight, because I think it was just a warm-up fight for Tyson Fury. But his next fight, we're going to see is the best. I think we're going to see a more improved Tyson Fury, and I think we're going to see Fury lose a lot more weight.
Yeah, we all certainly hope so, Ayaz. The fight, like you say, I mean, he was just messing around a lot, and it was funny because he is a real character, and he doesn't have to try to be a character. It just comes natural to him. Obviously, the kiss in the middle of the ring before the fight started, I mean, that was just crazy. And then there was a fight, like you said, that broke out in the crowd. Both fighters actually stopped and watched the fight. I mean, it was just so bizarre. The referee had to do his thing and tell them to both, pack it in and both, take the fight seriously. But Tyson, I think, was also battling a little bit of nerves. He's been out the ring for, like you say, a long time now. And, it was quite a dangerous fight, to be honest. I know some people are saying, well, this guy's a cruiserweight. This guy is not even the best cruiserweight in his family, because apparently he's got a brother who's also a better cruiserweight than him, which does sound really pathetic. But this guy had only lost once. It was by decision. It wasn't a knockout. I don't think he'd ever been down. And really and truly, I don't think he was taking that much of a punishment, really, from Tyson. I mean, he didn't land a glove on Tyson, and he was really kind of being made to look a bit of a fool, wasn't he? I mean, he was just in there to get humiliated, really. Tyson was just laughing at him, and he just couldn't land a punch, and I think he ended up getting quite frustrated, and it seemed like he actually quit himself rather than his corner pulling him out. So yeah, not Tyson's fault at all, but not really the conclusion to the fight that we wanted to see. He didn't really take your breath away, Tyson, with an ice-cold knockout where you'd say, wow, he needs to fight Joshua really quick. It wasn't that kind of win. It wasn't that kind of fight. And if he does lose a little bit more weight and he gets in there, like you say, on Carl Frampton's undercard and fights somebody who we have heard of before and looks good, then of course we'll all be jumping for joy, because we do want to see him back, and he really does have more skills on his day than any of the other top guys in the heavyweight division. So we all want to see him back, we all wish him the best, but that fight there was quite comical. And what else can we really expect from Tyson Fury? He come back and we were all eager to see how he'd get on, and he made us laugh, and he won every round, and he didn't even take a shot. So I'm sure that wouldn't have done him too much harm physically, and like I say, he'll be out again very soon, in a matter of weeks, and hopefully he gets out a few times and we get to see him a few times this year. So all the very best to Tyson Fury. The most important thing is that he's back in the ring and he's back happy. That is what we all want. What I will say, just before we move on from this card here, we all did a few predictions. Of course, we all predicted for Flanagan to win on points. That went horribly wrong for all three of us. I went with a Gorman KO, so did you, Ayaz, so did the listeners, so we all gained a point there. And I, very ballsy, went with Fury to win on points. You went with Fury by knockout, so did the listeners, so you both gained a point there. I was kicking myself about that. To be honest, in my defence, Tyson Fury didn't really look like he was going to actually stop the guy, actually knock the guy out or anything like that. It seemed like the guy quit, and he kind of robbed me really for my point there. I think he would have just lost a complete shutout really, but yeah. It was what it was. No crying over spilt milk for me. Moving over now, though, to the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, USA. This is a bill that I actually didn't watch, to be honest, Ayaz. I don't know if you saw any of this. We were supposed to have Mimi on the show, but she's had some technical difficulties. She was actually covering this card for us, so it's all gone wrong at the last minute, and she couldn't be with us this week. But I'm just going to have to read out the results. Did you manage to see anything of this card, Ayaz, or not?
Unfortunately, I didn't see any of the card. Obviously, they didn't show it live on TV, unfortunately.
No, not in the UK. But yeah, running through the results, Jermell Charlo moved to 31-0. He successfully defended his WBC Super Welterweight title. It ended up being a majority decision over 12 rounds against the wily veteran Austin Trout, now 31-5. Could be a last chance saloon for Austin Trout now. I'm not quite sure where he goes from here. He's lost to... Who's he lost to now? He's lost to all the current champions, hasn't he? I think he's lost here to Jermell Charlo. He lost to Hurd. Obviously lost once upon a time to Lara. Who's the other champion at 154 that I'm forgetting?
Oh, the guy that beat Saddam Ali.
Oh boy, yeah. I don't think you'd want to put Austin Trout in with him. I mean, it's just a real tough division for Austin Trout, to be honest. I don't know where he goes from here. I think he is officially a gatekeeper now, and it just is what it is. I mean, Trout was down in round 3. He was also down in round 9. Like I say, from what I've heard, it was a disgraceful scorecard turned in by one of the judges to say it was a draw. The other two judges thankfully overruling that, and it ended up being, like I say, a majority decision. But I'm hearing it really should have been a unanimous decision. Some people actually saying that Austin Trout should have got the victory, so there was some real subjective scoring on social media. But yeah, Jermell Charlo once again beats another name here. He's seriously on a run now. But one thing that did actually end was his run of knockouts. I, though, went with Charlo to win on points, so I was really happy when I gained a point there. You went with Charlo by knockout, so did the listener, so I was jumping for joy about that one. And the main event here, Leo Santa Cruz, the rematch against Abner Mares. I know that this will be a fight you'll definitely catch up on, Ayaz. I know that you watched the first fight and liked it, but yeah, Leo Santa Cruz won this time more definitively. He won by a unanimous decision this time over 12 rounds. It was, of course, for the WBA Super World Featherweight title, and the WBC Diamond Featherweight title was also on the line as well, believe it or not. Leo Santa Cruz now 35-1 with one draw. Abner Mares 31-3 with one draw. One thing to mention that Santa Cruz was cut on his left eye from a legal punch in round 8. A bit of a cut there for Leo Santa Cruz. One fight we'd all like to see is in the featherweight division. I know that Leo Santa Cruz now has been called out by quite a few guys. I know that Oscar Valdez said that he'd like to fight him next. We'd all like to see Gary Russell Jr. in the mix between those two as well. Who would you favour out of those 3 guys if they did somehow all fight each other?
I'm going to go with Santa Cruz, but the fight I really, really, really want to see back is Carl Frampton with Santa Cruz number 3, because I think that's a tremendous fight again.
Oh, I should also mention, he's been another guy that threw his name in the hat as well. So everybody wants to fight Leo Santa Cruz right now. Like I say, the scorecards were 117, 111, 116, 112, and 115, 113. So not really an absolute landslide. Still quite a relatively close fight. Just like the first one. But yeah, that's it from the Staples Center. Me, you and the listeners all agreed with Santa Cruz on points, so we all gained a point there. And moving over now to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. There is, of course, a couple fights to mention on this bill. Shakur Stevenson moved to 7-0. It was a TKO in round 2 against Elio Mesquita, 16-2 now. Like I say, a TKO in round 2 for Shakur Stevenson, a man that's been getting criticised a little bit for not really having that power. Well, he's certainly turned the critics round. He's managed to put 2 knockouts together in a row, and both in the second round, by the way. He's also got another knockout in the second round 2 fights before that. So 3 of his last 4 fights have all ended in TKO in the second round. So he certainly likes round 2, Mr. Shakur Stevenson. His opponent in his one loss previously was knocked out in the 5th round against Nathaniel May, another prospect. So a little bit of a measuring stick comparison there from me. Also on this bill, moving up once again, we had Jose Benavidez. He moved to 27-0. It was a KO in the very first round against Frank Rojas, who was previously undefeated, 22-0, I believe, with 21 knockouts, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this just goes to show how an absolute padded record and an absolute, almost just a complete padded record, like a fake winning record. Like, it's not fake because he actually got the wins, but this was a guy who had a stunning looking record. But when you look deeper, you understand that he's really beating guys who are absolutely terrible to get these wins, and he got completely and utterly exposed here, really bad. I did say, we didn't do predictions about it, but I did say that Benavidez will probably knock him out, and oh my god, I didn't expect it in the first round in the fashion that he did it. What an absolute fantastic win there. And of course, he was on the same bill as Terence Crawford, who he's wanted to fight for quite a while, so that really just adds a little bit more fuel to the fire there. Yeah, breathtaking finish from Jose Benavidez, the brother of David Benavidez, the undefeated super middleweight world champion. So brilliant stuff there for Jose. Moving up the bill once again, we had Maxim Dadashev. He moved to 11-0. It was a TKO in the 10th and final round against Darlis Perez, a fight where Dadashev was probably just about winning. It was quite a close-ish fight, really. So hard luck there for Darlis Perez. That one was for the NABF super lightweight title that was vacant at the time of the fight. Now, of course, with Dadashev 11-0. Jose Pedraza, former world champion, he moved to 24-1. It was a really, really, really close fight, though. All 3 judges turning in the exact same scorecard, 96-94 in favour of Pedraza. Unanimous decision there over 10 rounds. It was for the WBO Latino lightweight title. In the other corner, Antonio Moran, 23-3 now. His previous 2 losses came to Emmanuel Lopez and a guy called Luis Vidales, who is not a great fighter at all. So quite a surprisingly close fight there from Jose Pedraza. Of course, it's his second fight with Top Rank there, but he really hasn't looked himself since losing to Gervonta Davis. He hasn't really fought great opposition either, but I don't know what that's about. He seems like he slipped a little bit, really. And the main event, of course, Jeff Horn, 18-0 with 1 draw. He put his WBO World Welterweight title on the line against Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, of course, 32-0, moving up in weight here against the very big Jeff Horn. It was a TKO in round 9 in favour of Terence Crawford. He ripped away the WBO World Welterweight title here from Jeff Horn, who was coming off a brilliant win over Manny Pacquiao. Like I say, the TKO came in round 9, but the scorecards at the time of the stoppage, of course, the judges scored the first 8 rounds. They had Terence Crawford completely winning every single round, and Ayaz, boy oh boy, did he completely dominate Jeff Horn.
Yes, what a win by Terence Crawford. It was obviously in the 9th round. Terence Crawford, what can I say about him? This guy keeps improving and improving and improving. Obviously, we see him became undisputed off the light welterweight division, moved up and beat Jeff Horn. First of all, Jeff Horn failed to make weight at the start, and obviously on the night, Jeff Horn didn't even win a single round, from my opinion. Crawford just beat him, and you can see the in the 9th round. Obviously, the way his combinations movement, it just beat him. I think Crawford, in my opinion, is a star, and I think we're going to see him rule the division. I think there'll be two rulers in the welterweight division. It'll be him and Errol Spence Jr., and that's a fight I'd like to see in the future.
Yeah, we all want to see that fight, but let's also not overlook Keith Thurman, who, in my opinion, has done enough really to sit at the number 1 spot, even if it is just temporarily. The fight itself, I mean, Crawford was on the back foot in the early rounds. Horn, with his unconventional style, his coming forward style and his aggressive style, was being slightly outsmarted in the first round. It was quite a, I don't want to say close round because it wasn't, but he was losing it, but not by a mile at that point. Not too much happened really in round 2. It was another Crawford round. In the 3rd round, the fight really caught light, and Crawford was just showing the difference in class, really. He does everything so well. I mean, he can just adapt to basically any style. He really has it all. And by the mid part of the fight, it was just all Crawford. It really was. And Horn seemed like he was slowing down. Horn seemed like he was running out of ideas and running out of gas, really. It was like... it was just like playing a video game for the first time and forgetting to change the difficulty level to beginner. I mean, it was just one fighter in there that was just ultimately world class, and the other fighter that just seemed like he didn't really know what he was doing almost. And it seems mad to say that about Jeff Horn. Crawford was just in a complete different league to him. He had 100 times the amount of skills that Jeff Horn had, and Robert Byrd was constantly telling Horn off for seemingly nothing. I didn't really like that. That was getting on my nerves a little bit. I didn't think that the interventions from the referee were really needed. It was such a one-way beatdown anyway, and Horn he's basically a brawler. He doesn't really have a great jab. He does things like leads with a straight right hand and stuff like that, and Crawford's just too athletic. He's too clever to do that with, and Horn was just too predictable, too readable, and too one-dimensional for Crawford. Crawford never seems to make any mistakes. He's so sharp for every fight, and for the whole fight of every fight as well. And I think that Jeff Horn's sloppy footwork, like I said last week, he's tough as nails. He's an overachiever in terms of the fact that he's actually a school teacher by trade, and he did so well to beat Pacquiao, but he's a stubborn fighter, and in the end, it just wasn't to be for him. I mean, he got in there with a prime Crawford, even though he was moving up in weight. It's a prime Crawford, and Crawford was just a complete different animal in there. And Horn was receiving bad advice in the corner from his trainer Glenn Rushton, who I think was brilliant for the Pacquiao fight. He seemed like he run out of ideas himself. He had no real advice for him. He just kept saying you've got to dig deep, and there wasn't anything behind that advice. And like I say, in round 8, Crawford really put it on Horn, and he almost dropped him. Robert Byrd asked Horn to show him something at the beginning of the 9th round. A little bit early, I felt, for that. Even though he was losing every round, it wasn't like he was in any trouble at that point. And yeah, I mean, Horn, like I say, tired late on against Pacquiao. The same thing kind of happened here, and we've got a very fit, very systematic fighter in Terence Crawford that completely obliged to that. And Horn, like I say, touched down in the 9th round, and when he got back up, he took a few more clean shots before referee Robert Byrd jumped in and stopped the fight. Brilliant win for Crawford. Like I say, he's a freeweight world champion now. He's still undefeated, and in some of these moments of the fights, he just seems unbeatable. He truly does. I know that no one is unbeatable, but he looks so brilliant in there. one thing I will say about Jeff Horn, I've heard that the whole team really want a rematch. That is a fight I do not want to see. Nobody at all wants to see that fight. I wouldn't want to see that fight if I was paid to watch it. I do not want to see a rematch. It was a one-way complete shutout, and I was a little bit annoyed because I went with Terence Crawford to win on points, and to be honest, even though he did get dropped in that 9th round, he was kind of, he was tough enough really to soak it up. I think he probably could have gone a couple more rounds. I know that he was losing, so badly, and he was running out of steam so badly and really getting gassed and stuff like that, and Crawford was really putting the pressure on, but I think he possibly could have just made it to the distance, but I think the referee jumped in probably at the right time for Horn's best interest really, but I think the fighter in him, he's got a bit of dog in him. I think he probably would have tried his absolute utmost best to survive, and he possibly could have. He might have been dropped a couple more times. I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda at the end of the day, but I was quite gutted because I think he did well to last as long as he did, and like I say, I went with Crawford to win on points, so I didn't get a point there. You, Ayaz, and the listeners both went with Crawford by knockout, so you both gained a point there. So 4 points up for you, 4 points up for the listeners, and just 3 for me, so I'm trailing once again by 1 this week as well. So yeah, like I say, Jeff Horn now 18-1 with 1 draw. Terence Crawford 33-0. He's the new WBO World Welterweight champion. Moving over now though to the final bill to mention. It happened at the Pioneer Event Center in Lancaster, California. This one actually happened on Sunday. 3 fights to mention over here. Of course, one of the guys involved was a man that was on our show last week. Let's start with him. Michael Hunter, he moved to 14-1. It was a KO in round 5 against Iago Kiladze, who's now 26-3. Kiladze was down in the 5th round and out. A KO in round 5 for Michael the Bounty Hunter. Moving up the bill once again, Gerald Washington moved to win number 19. Of course, he's got 2 losses and a draw. It was a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against John Nofire, who's now 20-2, so a decent win there for Gerald Washington. Back to winning ways for him. He actually hadn't won a fight since 2016 because he had an awful 2017. I think he lost to Deontay Wilder there, and I think he also lost to Jarrell Miller in 2017 as well. So he had quite a bad 2017, and he started his 2018 with a win. So like I say, he hadn't won since 2016. I'm very pleased for the Big G, Mr. Gerald Washington. We'll be speaking to him later on in the show. And the main event on this bill, Travis Kaufman, 31-2, took on Scott Alexander, 14-2 with 2 draws. Scott Alexander's actually a lot better than his record suggests. It ended up being a majority decision over 10 rounds in favour of Travis Kaufman. A very, very close fight, this one, by the way. Both fighters were knocked down in the very first round, so a real drama-filled start to that one. But the friend of the show, Travis Kaufman, came out on top, so I'm pleased for him. His record now 32-2. Scott Alexander 14-3 with 2 draws. All the very best to Travis Kaufman, Gerald Washington and Michael Hunter on that bill there. But that really is it for the reviewing. A lot to mention, like I say there, that we've just done. That is it for the reviewing. Just before we wrap up part 1, there's one last thing to do. That, of course, is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBC Heavyweight World Title Challenger, Mr. Gerald Washington. Gerald, welcome back on the show, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's always my pleasure with you. So, Gerald, we actually haven't spoke with you in over a year now. We last spoke on Fight Week of your challenge for the world title against Deontay Wilder. I want to revisit that fight just for a moment, Gerald. Please walk us through what went wrong for you, because in my opinion, you won all 4 of the first 4 rounds before, of course, getting stopped in the 5th. You were jabbing Deontay's head off. You were making him look very average at points of that fight. And then, of course, he seemed to do what he always manages to do. He finds the big right hand, and then very shortly after that, the fight's over. Tell us from your point of view.
You know what? The fight was going... I was surprised of how well it was going. I was just like... I was looking for a lot more in the fight, and I was... It was just, I just felt very comfortable in the fight. I felt very comfortable in the fight, and he managed to land his right hand. He landed his right hand, and it wasn't a matter of me not having my hand up. I had my hand up, but he created the opening by using his left hand to just kind of deflect my hand, get my hand out of the way, his left hand, and move my left hand, and then he landed his right hand. I blocked and then he came back with a left hook, which I blocked completely, and that knocked me over. And the reason for me popping up so fast, that's what made me feel like I was like, oh no, because I fell over from that shot and not the right hand. I was like, that's why I popped right up, and I was fine at that moment. And then yeah, man, I knew he was gonna come again with the big shots. I was getting ready for a counter punch for myself. I was like, I'm gonna get him in this moment. And then that's where he caught me. But I went wrong because I was pressing forward and I was using my jab very well, and I hit him with a check hook at one moment in the fight. And in that moment, I told myself, you know what? That's when I'm gonna get him, because he keeps circling out, moving away from me, and he's hard to. And I couldn't get it. I couldn't really get my hands on him very well. So I was gonna wait for him to come, and that's where he caught me in that shot with that shot.
Yeah, because like I say, I mean, not just because you're on the phone, but simply you won the first 4 rounds easily. Like, you completely almost schooled him. You were completely boxing his head off, and not just me who thinks that. I mean, I've spoke to other guys who completely agree with that. You were doing so well in the first 4 rounds. Of course, after that fight, a little bit of a kamikaze style move, I suppose, in hindsight. Of course, you fought the undefeated knockout artist and top contender Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Most people would have had an easy comeback fight after losing to Deontay Wilder, Gerald, but not you. Do you regret that decision now?
No, you know what? That's one of the best moves that I did in my career, because I learned so much from that fight. I learned that I can't fight everybody the same way, that there's going to be different styles of fighters, you know what I mean? But and not until that moment was anybody else ever to pull that out of me and make me understand that, because there's other fighters that then try to pressure me, and I was able to hold them off because I was strong enough or whatever. This guy just man bit down, and he went all the way inside and said, that's what I'm going to do today. And that's what he did, and I had to learn how to adjust to that. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and literally I had to get with a new team and get a better understanding of that. So I'm with a new trainer in Shadid Saluki. He worked with Layman Brewster to win the heavyweight championship from Vladimir Klitschko, and he suffered from the same thing. He just wasn't. He suffered from the same thing, and I knew that that's what I needed to work on. So that's why I chose the man for the job. And I don't know if you saw my performance last night. I try to use a little bit of that. I fought like I haven't fought before. I was stepping forward. And I was just putting the heat on my opponent, and he just and I could tell that he didn't like it, man. And I was just, so now I'm going to be able to build off of that and just add something else to my arsenal, man, which is great. He gave me a better understanding of my inside game, how to work inside, and I don't. Before I used to just think that my space was my island, you know what I mean? That was my sanctuary. But there's people that will come and invade that space, and if you don't know what to do, you're going to be up the creek without a paddle. So I learned that lesson, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I want to get onto that fight in just a moment, about the one that you just recently had. I just want to rewind, like I say, to that Big Baby Miller fight. You didn't seem yourself really in there. You didn't use your size. You fought too close to Miller. You didn't really use your jab that night, and of course your corner ultimately pulled you out after 8. You said that you learned a lot there. What I do want to ask you is, obviously these two fighters, Deontay Wilder and Jarrell Big Baby Miller, are very, very different fighters. Both men can punch, but I think that Jarrell is more of a kind of a puncher where he'll kind of
he never hurt me in the fight. It wasn't a matter of him beating me. I beat myself in that fight because like I said, I was trying to use my distance for I'm a fighter that uses I'm a long range fighter. So once he took that away from me, I didn't know what to do in that moment. You know what I mean? So I had to go and learn what to do, how to fight mid range and close range. That way I can counter punch, I can defend inside, I can back him up off me and get back into my boxing game. But if I didn't have an answer for him there, of course he's going to move into the space and live and fight in that space where I'm the most vulnerable.
What's Jarrell's power like? Does it match up at all to Deontay's?
if he's not that type of fighter. He's a pressure fighter he's a volume puncher, meaning he's gonna just taps, and he'll just tap and keep working like that until he finds the opening, and then he'll throw the big shots. He never really landed the big shots on me, so that's what I'm saying. I was able to defend those well, but I was too busy defending everything, the light shots, where I wasn't busy enough in that fight. You know what I mean? And like I said, man, it was a big learning lesson for me.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, 2017 was a bad luck year for you. That's no secret. But on a more positive note, you mentioned you're back now to winning ways. On Sunday, you picked up win number 19 against Wesley Nofire. I was saying before the fight, he definitely needs some fire to beat you. If he did have fire, he didn't have enough because you outpointed him over 10 rounds. Walk us through that fight, please, Gerald, for those that may not have seen it.
It was just this fight was more about me practicing something that I was uncomfortable doing, and I did that in the fight. I could have easily boxed him the way that I normally do and fought him like that, and I would have been hitting him with cleaner shots. But my goal in this fight was to practice going forward, and I just had to make the adjustments because he was really grabbing on and smothering a lot of my shots, and I was allowing for that. I had to be able to create that space. But now I know that I need to use my jab to get in. I can't just, catch the punches and get in there. I can jab before he even goes. I mean, it's all a process, and it's another brick that I can add to my foundation. I'm just going to keep growing.
Yeah, I'm pleased to hear you say that, man. So, obviously, you were working before with John Pullman. Is he still involved, or is he not involved now?
No, he's not involved anymore, but we're still tight, man, and we're he's doing his thing. He has a lot of good fighters over there, and he's building up his gym over there, and it's going very well. Yeah,
and this gym that you're in now, is there other known fighters in that gym as well that you can reel off a couple names for us?
Yeah, I'm at the Team Watson gym here in Van Nuys. Actually, Chucky came over and he did a little bit of his training camp there. To prepare for his fight in Vegas when he fought Caleb.
Okay.
Yeah, he came in there, and just a couple of other fighters that are up and coming right now. But I think I have I've gone the furthest in my career right now at the moment in the gym.
It's not a bad thing. So, Gerald, just at this moment, have you got any idea when you're next fighting at all?
No, I'm a fighter that needs to stay busy, though. I need to be able to build off of my last performance and just keep growing. I mean, I look forward to getting right back in the gym and getting back in there. That way I can continue to learn because, like I said, I started so late in the game. I have 14 amateur fights and I'm learning on the job, man. And it's I've had the experience of fighting Deontay Wilder. I went to camp with Fishko, and I fared very well with those type of fighters because they're boxers, and Jarrell Miller showed me something else, and I'm glad that he brought that style to my attention, and I just have to continue to get better in my style, and I'm gonna learn how to gel everything together, and just I'm happy, man. I'm in a happy place, and I'm just continue to grow.
And you say there that you want to be kept active. Physically, when do you feel you'll be ready for another 10, 12 round contest? I mean, what month? I mean, we're in...
Oh, I'll be ready in 2 months. I mean, that's just, normal 2 to 3 months. I'll be ready to rock again.
Okay, brilliant.
And I love to come over to the UK and mix it up with some of those guys as well.
Yeah, I want to ask you, have you got anyone that's sort of on your radar? Because I want to ask you that I don't want to try and trick you into calling someone out, but what type of opponent are you kind of looking at now? I mean, would you be looking at someone that's an undefeated up and coming guy? Would you be looking at someone who has lost at world level, like someone like a Eric Molina? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to fight? What kind of guy do you want to fight?
As far as over there,
Hughie Fury, you've got. I like that fight.
Yeah, Fury. The Hughie Fury fight will be a great fight for me. That would be a great. That'd be the perfect level of opposition right there for me. As I work my way back into a world title contention, I have to have a couple fights like that. Just anybody that's gonna put me in the direction that I want to go. You know what I mean? I've never said no to any fight, never turned down any fight. If I get a name, I accept all challenges. I'll prepare myself in the training camp, and I'll go out there and I'll give it my best, and that's all I can do.
And I want to get your take on a couple of other fights that are either happening or perhaps going to be happening soon. We seem to be getting ever closer to this inevitable showdown now between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Of course, you've now been in there with Wilder. You haven't fought Joshua, obviously, but try not to be biased. Who do you believe will win that fight, hopefully, if it does happen?
Man, I really think that Deontay Wilder is becoming a good sharpshooter. Yeah, we all know that he's not. Anthony Joshua might be fundamentally a better boxer, but Deontay Wilder is becoming a very sharp puncher, man. He takes guys out, consistently, and you got to believe in that, man. And you got to know that. And Anthony Joshua, he allows himself to be touched, you know what I mean? So it's gonna make for a great fight. And I'm gonna be cheering my countryman on. I'm gonna be cheering Deontay Wilder on, and I'll be rooting for him to bring it back, man. Because I mean he's done it, man. He's proven it to me, and he's proven it to the world, man. I'm looking forward to that fight.
And one thing that both men have shown us in like the last year or so is that they've both passed very thorough gut checks. Obviously, Joshua, he had life and death with Vladimir Klitschko, and Deontay Wilder had a few moments in there with Luis Ortiz where it looked like he was almost going to go. So, both men have got a lot of heart. I think it just adds to a brilliant fight when it does get made.
And that's why I give Anthony Joshua, man. That was I was in the ring. I was helping Klitschko prepare for that fight, and I felt Klitschko, and I know that was a tall task, man. And he proved a lot to me by doing that. He did. I was like, man, that's the real deal right there. After that, you know what I mean? I knew that he's going to be a great champion. You know what I mean? So that's why this fight is going to be so intriguing.
Yeah, for sure. I actually thought Klitschko was going to win that fight, but that's another story. One fight that I will ask you about that has now been signed, it's going to be happening on July 28th in the UK, a fight that really took most of the public actually and even the press as well, by surprise. Dillian Whyte will be challenging Joseph Parker. Brilliant fight.
Yeah, great fight, man. Great fight for boxing, great fight for the heavyweight division. I'm glad that you guys are making they're making the great fights, the big fights over there. That's why I'm saying I want to get over there and mix it up with and be a part of that mix somehow. You know what I mean? When the time comes, because I want to be on the world stage like that. But that's gonna be a great fight. You got a guy that's slick and likes to move and box, and then you got another guy that's a bit of a bruiser in Dillian Whyte. So it's gonna make for a great fight, man. He's a really gritty guy, and that's gonna be another good fight.
Did you manage to catch any of Tyson Fury's comeback fight on the weekend? And if so, what did you make of it?
No, I didn't catch I just saw a couple highlights, and I saw the kiss, of course. And I saw those guys picking each other up during the weigh-in and stuff like that. I'm glad that Tyson Fury is back. I thought that he's a tremendous talent, and I love. I love what he did with Vladimir Klitschko and how he was able to do that. And that, because to me, boxing is a lot more of a mental game, and he really played that game very well with when he fought Klitschko. And I was surprised for him to be able to do that. He didn't do it with so much with power. He did it more so with finesse and using his mind, and I'm glad he's back in the mix, man. I hope he can get his body back really where he needs to be. I know it's going to be hard to come back. He lost maybe 100 pounds or something from where he was, and to really get in tip-top shape where he can really compete is he's just going to have to keep working.
Yeah, for sure. We all hope he comes back to be something close to what he was when he left us. And finally, Gerald, really, I just wanted to ask you if there was anything that you wanted to say that I perhaps haven't asked you, or just any closing words before we let you go. You can say anything you like.
Oh man, I'm just happy to be able to do what I love and compete, and to be boxing on this level. You know what I mean? To be mentioned with these guys and to mix it up and to be able to be put in positions to fight with these guys. I think that's what the heavyweight, that's what boxing needs, man. We need a lot of great fighters to make these great matchups. And I just want to do my part and get in the mix, man, and one day, you know, fulfill my dream and win a world championship.
Absolutely, my friend, God willing, and hopefully we will see you in the UK soon, Hughie Fury. I will make sure knows that, you know, that's a fight that you'd like down the line. But listen, Gerald, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Thank you for your time. Congrats once again on your win on Sunday, and we'll talk again very soon.
All right, thank you. Take care, brother.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Ayaz, what have you got for us?
Well, today's biggest news is that David Haye will retire from boxing.
Yes, he's of course announced his retirement. He sent a big long page or two, actually. It was really worth a read, actually, as well. And of course, he's going to still be promoting. He's got a show this week that we will be speaking about. It's actually happening tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, what a brilliant fighter Ayaz. It's a real shame the way his career ended, losing twice to Bellew, a man that I think everybody knows wouldn't have been able to beat a prime David Haye. You know, the last 2 fights in his career were complete shambles, I guess, and he made money. I guess that's all what it really matters about at the end of the day. When he shuts his street door and, you know, he's looking at his beautiful furniture and his massive house. But yeah, I was a real big fan of David Haye for years and years. I mean, he was probably the guy that really, really got me into boxing, to be honest with you. He was the guy. I mean, he was like some of my first ever proper fights where I was watching it as a hardcore fan were David Haye fights. And I'm not ashamed to say that, you know. I mean, he was just a phenomenal cruiserweight, one of the best cruiserweights Britain has ever produced. Him against Johnny Nelson would have been a cracking fight back in the day. That, of course, never happened, but he was just a brilliant fighter. He was a true pay-per-view fighter. He had it all. He had the speed, he had the power. Those are the 2 main attributes, by the way, in boxing. It's about speed and power. If you've got those 2 things, then you can go a long way, and he had much more than that, but those 2 attributes he certainly had in abundance. And he fought, you know, name after name, and he moved up to heavyweight. He made the jump and he beat, I believe it's like the biggest ever heavyweight world champion. He actually did that, and he was only a short guy for the weight himself. And I remember the size difference between those 2 guys. It was just unbelievable. And when David Haye dethroned Nikolai Valuev on the road, it was just, you know, that was the epitome really of his career, to move up from cruiserweight, being a unified champion at cruiserweight, to move up and win the WBA world heavyweight title, then to go out and take on Vladimir Klitschko. And of course, Vladimir Klitschko, who up until his very last fight was a complete, utter knockout artist. And even though he didn't fight well that fight, David Haye, he wasn't, you know, he didn't get knocked out. He didn't really get disgraced too much until the post-fight press conference, of course, when he blamed it on his toe. But aside from that, you know, he took some time out the ring. He retired a couple times. He come back. He fought Derek Chisora, and you were there ringside as well. And that was just a fantastic night in Upton Park that night. And that was a brilliant build-up to that fight, one of the most exciting build-ups in British boxing history, to be honest, when they had to have the, you know, the metal fence between the 2 at the press conferences and stuff like that, the brawl out the ring, of course, in Munich. There was so much surrounding David Haye. And, you know, when he took the time out after the Chisora fight and he came back after all that time out, and then I remember being at his first fight when he took on Mark Demori, and you know, he walked out in the O2, and I'll never forget it, because David Haye, he pulled out in many fights. Of course, he was supposed to take on Tyson Fury, he was supposed to take on various other fighters, and those fights didn't take place. And he had the most loyalist fan base, because I tell you what, he came back after all those years out, and he got in there against Mark Demori. And I remember when he walked out to the ring, they're playing Ain't No Stopping Us Now, and I was right there, literally. I could touch him if I put my arm out. I was that close to him. And he walked out and he stopped right in front of me. And he kind of just looked up at the crowd in disbelief. He couldn't believe it. Even though he was in fight mode, he walked out and he just took a moment and looked at the crowd. And I'll never forget it. And the look in his eye was just like, wow, I can't believe it. I've sold the place out. Like, they've all turned up to see me. The undercard's absolutely terrible. They're here to see me. They're not here to see Mark Demori. They're here to see me. And the whole of the O2 Arena was absolutely packed out. And that was the moment there where I just thought, wow, this guy's fan base, I mean, they're so loyal. They're so forgiving. They've forgiven him for the injuries. They've forgiven him for the excuses. They've forgiven him for all the time out the ring, and they've showed up. And it was a brilliant thing because he'd come back. He looked explosive with Shane McGuigan. He knocked out Mark Demori brutally. He knocked out that guy Arnold the Cobra. Of course, he's since been really exposed as a bad fighter. He wasn't as good as what his record said, but he knocked him out at the time, and that was brutal as well. And we were all excited. We actually thought, do you know what? He could perhaps beat Anthony Joshua, man. Oh, my God. But then, of course, when he fought Bellew, it all went wrong for him in that first fight. We all kind of, we all said he only lost the fight because of a injury, and then he got back and tried his best, and, of course, another injury happened, and he can't keep fighting and being injured. His body's just gonna, he's gonna end up in a wheelchair if he carries on. So I think he's. I mean, it's easy to say he's retired at the right time now because he's made some extra money. I think he's made about $6 million or something like that in the two Bellew fights combined. So how can you say no to that money? But yeah, I mean, he kind of tarnished a little bit of his legacy there. 2 losses to Bellew, but. Aside from that, everything has been brilliant in his career, and I'll always be a fan of David Haye, a real exciting person, not just a boxer, and I'm looking forward to his many years, hopefully, being a promoter. I mean, I'm one of his biggest fans, so a sad thing for him to retire because, I've always loved him as a fighter, but it, of course, had to happen one day, and it probably should have been a few years ago, but yeah, I'm sad to see him go, to be honest, Ayaz, and what a brilliant fighter he was. He really was, and just tell us a couple words on David Haye from your point of view as well. Obviously, like I say, you were there in Upton Park.
Yes, I was there at Upton Park. I think David Haye, in my opinion, was one of the greatest cruiserweights in our childhood, and I think he's obviously gonna go down as one of the best cruiserweights. And good luck to him. Obviously, good luck to him in his promotional career, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah, very well said. That's it on David Haye. As we've talked quite a lot about the first piece of news, what else have you got for us?
Right, big news. Unbeaten world champion Mikey Garcia and Robert Easter Jr. will fight in a unification at the Staples Center in Los Angeles on July 28th.
Yes, I'm so pleased about this because I think that when Mikey won the title at 140 and he vacated it and moved back down to 135, no one really knew what he was going to do. I mean, he didn't have tons of options. At the time, of course, we had Linares fighting Lomachenko. We knew that he'd have to wait for the winner out of that. And in the other corner, well, not in the other corner, but, the other guys on the table, if you like, was Robert Easter Jr., and that was really about it. Am I missing out one of the champions there? Of course, we had Linares had the WBA. The WBC was Mikey, wasn't it? And then the IBF, is Robert Easter Jr. Who's the WBO champ, Ayaz? 135. Beltran. So yeah, obviously Beltran hasn't long been champion, but yeah, he's in the picture. Very respectfully to Beltran, because I do like him. I don't think everyone's raving about the Mikey Garcia versus Beltran fight, to be honest with you. So, I mean, Robert Easter Jr. is a lucrative fight. He's like you say, undefeated, 21-0, a bit of a puncher himself, 14 knockouts from 21 wins. He's tall for the weight as well, 5'11", 5'6" Mikey Garcia, by the way, so that's a huge difference in size, 5 inches there, so that is something to think about. But yeah, Mikey Garcia is one of the best fighters in the world, and I think this is a perfect thing to do here to unify this division here at 135, where he's better suited than 140, and I think when he wins this, which I think he really will, I think he probably even knocks Robert Easter out. I will say, Robert Easter, talking about size difference, in Robert Easter's last fight, I remember he took on Javier Fortuna, and Javier Fortuna is a short guy, and he really struggled with Fortuna, but Fortuna was a southpaw, to give him credit. But yeah, great fight. I'm backing Mikey to win it, and when he wins it, I'd like to see him perhaps take on Linares, who didn't disgrace himself against Lomachenko, really. So, yeah, there's many good fights there. I'm not quite sure what Lomachenko's doing, whether he's moving back down in weight, which I think he probably should do. But, yeah, exciting times for Mikey Garcia.
Rocky Fielding will fight Tyron Zoiga for his WBA World Super Middleweight title on July 14th.
Yeah, there were many people in the hat, I guess, for this fight. I wanted personally to see John Ryder get the shot. I think that he deserved it as well, but then on paper, if you look, he does have a loss, a very controversial loss to Rocky Fielding. I'm pleased for Rocky Fielding being a Brit to get the chance. I think he probably will win that fight, actually. It's not that long away, though. I don't know if he's had great preparation for it. I'm hoping he has. Obviously, he's going to have to travel for it as well, so there is that. But I wish him all the best. I think it's a very, very winnable fight, and he can punch himself, Rocky Fielding. Aside from that one fight against Callum Smith where he got beaten around, he's actually a really good fighter. He's got a lot of skills about him as well. So, yeah, I think that's a cracking fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. So all the very best to him. If he does win, I'd like to perhaps see the rematch with John Ryder. I think John's on a real wave at the moment. He's on a roll. So, yeah, from a personal point of view, I'd like to see John Ryder get a crack, but I'm pleased for Rocky Fielding as well.
Martin Murray's replacement fight will be against Roberto Garcia.
Yeah, obviously there was question marks about Martin Murray fighting on the 23rd of June after Billy Joe Saunders pulled out of the fight. It's great that he has got an opponent sorted for that date, so no training camp wasted for him, which is a good thing. Obviously it's not a world title fight. It is against a guy called Roberto Garcia, who is a 38-year-old Mexican, 41-3 his record. Of the 3 losses, he's never been stopped, and his last loss was back in 2010 against Antonio Margarito. So he's been around for a long time, this guy. He's obviously coming to the tail end of his career like Martin Murray, so it could make for quite a good fight, or it could make for a terrible fight. But it's for the WBC silver middleweight title, so it does give Martin Murray something to get up for, I guess. I mean, aside from the fight itself, he will actually end up with a title if he wins, so we wish Martin Murray the best of luck. I'm not quite sure how the styles will gel, actually. I'm hoping it will be a good fight, but yeah, I'm pleased, literally, because Frank Warren could have said, sorry Martin, you're not fighting Billy Joe now, that's it. But he has actually really tried his best to get an opponent, and a decent opponent as well, so that he just simply doesn't waste his money on a training camp. So credit to Frank Warren, that was kind of him to do that. And like I say, all the best to Martin Murray. I'll be there for that one, supporting him.
Right, the same person that beat Bradley Skate, whose name is Kerman Lejarraga, will face Frankie Gavin on Saturday the 17th of November.
Wow. Is that official, Ayaz? I haven't even seen that.
Yep, it's official.
Wow. So that is on the what of November, you say?
17th of November.
Okay, so just, what's that about? That's about 5 months this week. So, quite a weird thing to have a fight announced in 5 months' time. That's quite crazy. But yeah, all the best to Frankie Gavin in that one. I guess we'll have to try and get him on the show. He's been on a couple times before. Obviously, his career's kind of hit a bit of a dead end at the moment, and he's a bit unsure of where to turn to. And if he wins this fight, then his whole career is back on track. Kerman Lejarraga, though, is undefeated, and he certainly can punch. He showed us that against Bradley Skeet in a real heartbreaking win, or heartbreaking loss for Bradley Skeet, but a heartbreaking win to see Kerman Lejarraga win that fight. So yeah, I'd have to favour Lejarraga, I guess, simply because he's the much fresher guy. But if Frankie can get in there and, get to his boxing skills and roll back the clock a little bit, then it could be quite interesting. Obviously, that fight's going to be at 147 as well, so that's not a great thing for Frankie, I seriously think. I think he should be down at 140 at least. But yeah, it is what it is. All the best to Frankie Gavin. I really hope he can avenge it for Bradley Skeet, and then perhaps they can even get a rematch going, because it was a real controversial night when Frankie Gavin got the nod over Bradley Skeet. I disagreed with that one completely. I was there for that one.
Darius Sek will face Anthony Yard on June the 23rd.
Yeah, Anthony Yard was on the show, I think, was it last week, or it might have been the week before that. But anyway, Anthony Yard was actually telling me that he was looking for a southpaw. He said that in the interview, he was looking for a southpaw. They found one here. Now, I don't really have any problem with this fight because Anthony Yarde obviously has had such a short amateur career, 12 fights in his amateur career. He's turned pro. He's now, of course, 15-0. He hasn't fought a southpaw yet. I don't know if he fought a southpaw in the amateurs, but that's amateurs anyway. He hasn't fought a southpaw as a pro, and he takes on a guy here called Darius Sek. You may be asking who that is. Fair question. He's not a big name. He's 31 years of age. He's a Polish fighter. He stands at 6'2", so the height will be with him. Of course, he is an actual light heavyweight. It's not like they're dragging this guy up in weight or, trying to pull him down in weight or anything like that. He is a career light heavyweight. He's lost, like I say, 3 times. His record's 27-3 with 3 draws. He's not a big puncher himself. He's only got 9 knockouts. But of his 3 losses, he's never been stopped. So that is a good thing. We may see Anthony Yarde, go some rounds here. His last loss, Darius Sek, was in 2017 to Viktor Polyakov, a very close split decision loss. And the loss before that was back in 2014 to Robin Krasniqi, who at the time was 42-3. Of course, Robin Krasniqi's now 48-5. And Krasniqi is currently, today as we speak, he just won it a couple weeks back, he is the EBU European Super Middleweight Champion. So there's no shame in losing to Krasniqi, and it was actually quite a close fight, that fight, by the way, and it was in Krasniqi's backyard of Germany. And of course, like I say, it was by a unanimous decision. So he went the distance, this guy, with the current European champion. So I think it's a fair step up for Anthony Yarde. It's not a gigantic step up. I don't think there's any real threat to Anthony Yarde, but this guy is no mug. So I've got no qualms with this fight. I'm pleased that he's fighting a southpaw. He's getting the experience, and if he can knock this guy out, he makes another statement, doesn't he? So I'm pleased for Anthony Yarde, and I wish him all the best.
Yes, that's it for the news.
Okay, thank you, Ayaz. Of course, there's a lot of back and forth at the moment about the Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua fight. Until that's finalised, there's no point us just, speculating about what's going on. But yeah, getting over now to the preview part of the show, there is one fight to mention that's happening tomorrow at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London, United Kingdom. Of course, a Haymaker Promotions card. This one, David Haye got his promoting hat on. A couple fights to mention on the bill here. Michael Venom Page, he fights. His record 1-0. He takes on Michael Kiach, who's 1-5. That's a 4-rounder there. I'm expecting Michael Venom Page to get a really easy win, to be honest here. I'd like to see him stepped up because we hear about him being this really fantastic fighter. Apparently he's done very well against world champions in the gym. That's what David Haye has said, but he seems to just be fighting these guys that are, they're no good. I know he's only had the one pro fight. He fought a guy who was 2-11 with 1 draw. This guy's 1-5, so he's not much better. But we do have to remember that Michael Venom Page is 31 years of age, so it's not like the time's on his side really. Also on this bill we have Savannah Marshall. Her record, of course, 2-0. She's in a 6-rounder. That's of course 6 2-minute rounds. Her opponent yet to be announced. Linus Udofia, his record at the moment 8-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Eric Nwankwo, who's 1-1. Joe Joyce tops the bill, of course, the juggernaut, the Olympic silver medalist from the 2016 Olympics in Rio. His record 4-0 with 4 knockouts. He puts his Commonwealth heavyweight title on the line against Ghana's very own Richard Lartey, who's 12-1. I mean, this guy Lartey, of his one loss, it was by knockout. It was to Ergun Mersin back in 2014. Now, Ergun Mersin is 12-0. So he lost to this guy called Ergun Mersin, who, like I say, won the fight and then retired straight after. So quite weird. It was for the vacant WBC Youth Silver Heavyweight title at the time. But like I say, that was back in 2014. Since then, Richard Lartey's gone on a winning streak. He's got 6 wins in a row now. 3 of them have come by knockout. He's got 9 knockouts from his 12 wins. So I'm not expecting too much from him, but it's another real showcase, I guess, for Joe Joyce. He defends his Commonwealth strap. So No real problem with that, I guess. It's not a fantastic card, but I will be there cheering him on from ringside. Moving over now to Quebec, Canada. 1 or 2 fights to mention over here. Yves Ulysse Jr., 15-1. He is in the ring against Ernesto Espana, who is 25-0 with 1 draw. Ulysse is the guy that last time out took Cletus Seldin's O in a fantastic, very smart boxing lesson fight. He really was brilliant that night, Yves Ulysse, and he was coming off a very controversial split decision loss. I do really like the look of Yves Ulysse Jr. I think he's got a lot to like about him, a very, very clever boxer, and I think he's got a really, really bright career. He is 29 years of age though, but this guy here that he takes on, Ernesto Espana, 25-0 with 1 draw, 20 by knockout, by the way, a Venezuelan boxer here. When you look down his resume, they're not against fantastic fighters. His 1 draw came against Ruben Nieto. That's the guy that took on Lenny Dawes in that mad fight, and Lenny Dawes got disqualified for a headbutt. That's another story though. Going off topic a little bit, this guy Espana can punch, but I'm really expecting Yves Ulysse to put on a fantastic display of boxing and probably win a points decision there. Moving over now though to Germany, 1 or 2 fights to mention over here. We have Firat Arslan, 47 years old, 42 wins, 8 losses and 2 draws. He fights for the vacant Global Boxing Union World Cruiserweight title. Not too much credibility, that belt there. He takes on Pascal Ndomba, who's 23-8 with 2 draws. In his last fight, Arslan, he actually knocked out the guy in the first round, and the guy was pretty awful. This guy here is not much of a step up, so I'm guessing it'll probably be a win for the man who is Firat Arslan, who's almost 48 years of age, former, of course, cruiserweight world champion. And moving over to another part of Germany, this one happening in Munich. Couple fights to mention on this bill. We've got Peter Milas, who's 11-0. He recently beat Kevin Johnson, the heavyweight. He is also the IBO International Heavyweight Champion. He puts his belt on the line against Francesco Pianetta, who's 35-3 with 1 draw. That's a 12-rounder there. Pianetta, one of his 3 losses came to Vladimir Klitschko. I think he was undefeated at the time when he took on Klitschko for the world heavyweight titles, and I remember him getting knocked out pretty quickly. But Pianetta, if I'm not mistaken, he had cancer and he overcome it and he carried on with his boxing career. He doesn't quite get the plaudits that Daniel Jacobs had, because he did actually get right to the top of the sport and fight for a world title, but yeah, he doesn't really get the credit that Jacobs gets, but he is a decent enough fighter, Pianetta, so a real step up here for Peter Milas. Like I say, just come off of the win over Kevin Johnson. Moving down this bill though, it's a real weird one here. Marco Huck, 40 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw. He takes on Jakob Saglam, who's 40-4. This is actually a real tough fight, and this could really go either way. Of course, Marco Huck, a man that certainly has seen better days, and Marco Huck hasn't won a fight since 2016 either. He's coming off of 2 losses, a unanimous decision loss over 12 to Breedis in 2017, and also in the late part of 2017 he got knocked out in the 10th round by Alexander Usyk. But Saglam himself, he's actually coming off of a string of wins. He's coming off of 6 wins in a row, all by knockout as well, and his last loss was in 2015 to Joseph Parker. He got TKO'd in 2 rounds. He also lost to Odlania Solis back in 2013. That's a name for the past. And also he lost to Manuel Char back in 2013 as well. So yeah, his last 3 losses all came by knockout, Saglam. And of his 40 wins, he's got 37 knockouts. So he's one of those guys that I think either knocks you out or gets knocked out. It really depends on what Marco Huck has left, to be completely honest. I believe the fight will be happening at heavyweight. I think it will. Let me just quickly check that. Just to be sure. Yes, it will be at heavyweight. This guy stands at 6'4", and Marco Huck, of course, 6'2". Should be a decent fight, that one. Moving over now from Germany to Mexico. One fight to mention over here. Jose Zepeda. That's the guy that lost that really weird fight against Terry Flanagan where he seemed to dislocate his shoulder or something like that. And that was when Terry Flanagan won the world title in the first place, the WBO title. Jose Zepeda 28-1. He's in a 12-rounder against Carlos Ramirez, who's 26-0. Should be a good fight there for Mexico. That's a 12-rounder. Moving over now to Poland. One fight to mention over here. Andre Fonfara, 29-5. Of course, a former opponent of Adonis Stevenson. They had 2 fights, and the most recent one, Adonis Stevenson knocked Fonfara out in 2 rounds. He looked terrible in that fight. And in the other corner, Ismail Salah, of course, 25-5. He got knocked out in 2 against Kovalev. So both these guys fighting each other. One got knocked out by Kovalev in 2. One got knocked out by Stevenson in 2. It's a 10-rounder. Should be a decent fight there for Poland. You'd probably have to favour Fonfara being the home fighter for this one. But to be honest, Salah's not a bad fighter himself. Moving over now, though, to Newcastle, United Kingdom, Tyne & Wear, the Metro Radio Arena. What do we have over here? We have Hosea Burton returning to the ring. His record 21-1. Glenn Foot's on the bill. His record 22-3. Ricky Burns is on the bill. His record 41-7 with 1 draw. All 3 of those guys there are without an opponent at the moment. We have a guy, an undefeated prospect here called Jake High. His record 9-0. He takes on Adam Jones, who's 8-33 with 6 draws. My favourite journeyman, Adam Jones. He's actually coming off an upset win himself last weekend, so he's got some momentum behind him. Adam Jones also on the bill for the English Cruiserweight title. Arfan Iqbal 12-0 takes on Simon Valili 13-1. This fight was supposed to happen once or twice before. They're finally getting in the ring. It wasn't through any fault of their own. I don't think that the fights never went ahead, so it's great that this fight will finally be happening. Also for the vacant WBA Continental Super Flyweight title, Charlie Edwards 12-1, friend of the show, takes on Anthony Nelson, an absolutely identical record, 12-1 also. That's a 12-round contest there. Anthony Nelson, of course, gave us fight of the year when he took on Jamie Conlon. What a fight that was. Of course, Charlie Edwards, his one loss came at world title level, so I guess you'd have to favour Charlie Edwards. We actually went to the predictions on this. I actually forgot. I went with Charlie Edwards to win this fight on points. I don't think he'll be able to stop Nelson. I think Nelson's a tough guy, and let's be honest, in terms of actually having a proper war, Anthony Nelson's been there before. I know that Charlie Edwards had to dig deep against Casemiro, but I think he didn't really have a choice. I think, you know, he took a bit of a beating that night. He didn't really get his own shots off, but to stand there and trade and properly have it, he didn't really do that. He was in deep water, but he didn't really have a proper tear up with the guy. And of course, when Anthony Nelson fought Jamie Conlon, it was a real tear up. So could be quite a good fight, this one. I really hope it is. I hope that the clash of styles brings out the best in both guys, and hopefully we see a little bit of blood and guts from both guys, but I'm expecting Charlie to win this fight here. Ayaz, how do you see that fight playing out? Of course, Anthony Nelson a bit of a warrior, and Charlie Edwards a bit of a master boxer, really.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see a different Charlie Edwards. Obviously, we seen Charlie Edwards fight we seen him fight, and obviously he left split with Adam Booth. But I want to see, obviously he's training in the Steel City, but I want to see how he performs. But if I'm going to go with him, I'm going to go with Charlie Edwards to win on points.
Yeah, the listeners also agree with you and me, Ayaz, so we're all going with Charlie Edwards on points there. All the very best to him, a friend of the show. He was on a few weeks ago, of course, for this bill here, so we've spoke to him about this fight. Also, another man that has been on our show to speak about his fight on this bill, Gavin McDonnell, 19-1 with 2 draws, fresh off his fantastic win against Gamal Yafai, in which he was a big underdog for. Of course, Gavin McDonnell, very recently, his brother lost his 10-year unbeaten streak. He's in a tough fight here, by the way, Gavin McDonnell, against former world champion Stewie Hall, 21-6 with 2 draws. Of course, this one is for the WBC International Super Bantamweight title. That belt at the moment is Gavin McDonnell's. Will that belt be Gavin McDonnell's come Sunday, though, Ayaz? How do you see that fight unfolding there, Gavin McDonnell and Stuart Hall?
I think it's a very tough fight, but I think Gavin McDonnell will win this on points. I think Gavin McDonnell's reach is very good. I think he's a very good fighter as well. Obviously, we saw him perform a masterclass against Gamal Yafai. I think Gavin McDonnell will win on points as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, and so do the listeners. I think it's certainly a points fight, this one. I don't think Stuart Hall's got the, he's got much power. I don't think he's got the power really to trouble Gavin McDonald like that. I don't think Gavin McDonald's got the power either. Gavin McDonald I did say this to him, and he actually said to me he'd be very annoyed if it went the distance. So I think he might end up being annoyed, but I think he probably will win and win well. I really hope he does. Of course, he was on the show a few weeks back as well. And of course, Josh Kelly, 6-0, fresh off his win over former world champion Carlos Molina. He puts his WBA International Welterweight title on the line, and in the other corner, Chris George, 14-1. He puts his Commonwealth Welterweight title on the line. Chris George is a man who, like I say, his one loss actually was by points to a guy called Can Zhu, who is a decent fighter, actually, a Chinese fighter. So no real shame in that one. It's a tough fight, really. I mean, of course, Chris George is an Australian guy. He's 5'10.5". I don't think that's really going to be much of a problem. But Josh Kelly is just really looking impressive all the time now, especially that win there against Carlos Molina. Again, Josh Kelly's been on the show to talk about this fight just, I think, a couple days before it got announced officially. He kind of did say he was fighting, but we were mainly talking about his last fight. So I wish him all the best, of course, but I'm expecting a very dominant Josh Kelly win once again.
Yes, same here. I think Joshua Kelly, obviously I'm going to go with the Josh Kelly knockout. The reason is, obviously, we've seen Josh Kelly, he's got Olympic pedigree. He went to the Rio Olympics. We've seen him in the pro ranks. And my word, he's going very, very quickly with Adam Booth. He's side by side with Ryan Burnett as well. So, I mean, he's gaining a lot of experience. And I think Josh Kelly's going to make a statement this Saturday.
Yeah, that one is a 12-round contest, though I don't see it going the distance, even though this guy's never been stopped. And Josh Kelly's not really the biggest one-punch guy. I think he's an accumulative guy, but he's so damn good, Josh Kelly. I love watching him. There's no other prospect in the world that's only 6-0, 7-0, something like that I enjoy watching more than him. I don't think there is one. I mean, I'm trying to think now. I like watching Shakur Stevenson. I like a little bit of Michael Conlan. You know, out of all the Olympians, he's by far the most exciting one to watch. By absolute far. He's so brilliant, man. I love watching him, so I'm excited to see him fight once again. We did the predictions on this. I'm going with a Josh Kelly knockout, so are you, Ayaz. The listeners went with a Kelly knockout as well. No one at all voted for George to win, either by points or by knockout. Literally everyone went with Josh Kelly by knockout. 80% with Kelly by knockout, 20% with Kelly on points. But yeah, we've all gone there with Kelly by knockout. So far, we can't be split. Moving up the bill once again, we have Lewis Ritson, 15-0. He takes on Paul Hyland Jr., 18-0. A fantastic fight here for the British lightweight title. Of course, Ritson is looking to win it outright here. This will be his third defence of it, and I'm guessing probably his final defence if he wins. It's his chance to win it outright, and I think he would have won the whole thing outright in about 5 or 6, maybe 7 months, actually, from winning it and then defending it 3 times. I think it's 7 months, something like that, which has probably got to be up there with one of the quickest times to win it outright if he does indeed win on Saturday.
Yes, I think Lewis Ritson's a very good fight. He's very explosive as well. Obviously, I don't know much about his opponent, but if I'm going to go with a win, I'm going to go with Lewis Ritson because I think it's in his hometown and I think he's going to have the crowd behind him. So I'm going to go with Lewis Ritson to win on points.
Yeah, Paul Hyland Jr., he's a good fighter. I mean, he's been in there with a couple of decent guys. Adam Dingsdale, he knocked him out in a round. He got a split decision win against Stephen Ormond. Aside from that, I mean, he hasn't really fought the best of guys, really. But when he has fought, he's looked good. You know, he's one of those guys that I feel is very underrated. He doesn't really get the recognition, I don't think, from most of the casual fans. I don't think he's really got that appeal, but he's actually a really good fighter, and I don't think he's with a top promoter. I could be completely wrong, but he's not really like, a guy that I think gets much TV time. So he's very much an under the radar type of guy, just like Ritson was really just a matter of months ago. His whole life's completely turned around, and if Paul Hyland Jr. can win this fight, then he'll be doing exactly the same thing, and he'll probably get a contract from Frank Warren on the Sunday. But Lewis Ritson, I'm expecting to do the job here, and I'm going to go with him by knockout. Did you say by knockout as well, Ayaz?
Over points.
Oh, you've gone points. Okay. Very brave of you there. The listeners going with Ritson by knockout as well. 9% going with Highland by knockout as well. So perhaps, I'm not quite sure though. But yeah, Ritson, I believe, will win this and then move on to the European scene, because the world really is at his feet at the moment. I mean, he's just looking absolutely fantastic, Lewis Ritson, really bringing big time boxing to Newcastle as well on his own. Moving over now though to the Ford Center at the Star, it's called, in Frisco, Texas, USA. 1 or 2 fights to mention on this bill. This is our final bill to preview, Ayaz. What do we have over here? We have Yordenis Ugas, 21-3. He's in an 8-rounder. His opponent yet to be announced. We have Javier Fortuna, 33-2 with 1 draw. He's in a 10-rounder against Adrian Granados, 18-6 with 2 draws. Of course, Granados really looking for some kind of retribution, I guess, really, for losing that real close fight against Adrian Broner, where some people believe Granados should have got the win. Of course, after that, he took on Sean Porter and he lost that one, but this is a fight where he's certainly up for it. He certainly believes he'll win. And Javier Fortuna coming off a loss himself, as we mentioned earlier, to Robert Easter Jr., so quite a good fight there. We've gone to the predictions on that one, Ayaz. It's a 10-round contest there. Javier Fortuna, Adrian Granados. Let me quickly check what the listeners have voted for this. They've gone with, it's very close, but they've gone Fortuna on points. I tell you what, I'm going to agree with that as well. I don't know where you stand on it, Ayaz, Fortuna or Granados?
Go with Fortuna on points.
Okay, so we're all going with Fortuna there. And the main event here, the main event. In fact, let's mention also on the undercard, Daniel Roman, 24-2 with 1 draw. He puts his WBA World Super Bantamweight title on the line against Moises Flores, 25-0. Moises Flores, I'm expecting to probably win that fight. That's a 12-rounder, of course. Just a little mention there. Again, this card's going to be shown on Showtime, but the main event, the fight that really makes this card what it is, Errol Spence Jr., 23-0, puts his IBF World Welterweight crown on the line, the belt that he took away from our very own Kell Brook, against Carlos Ocampo, 22-0. Both men undefeated here, combined records of 45-0. Eyes. A lot of people overlooking Ocampo, and I mean, I understand why. It's because Errol Spence is looking like an absolute beast and everybody's really high on him. You know, that's all there really is to say. I've gone and looked at the votes and 96% have gone with Spence by knockout. I'm going to have to go with that as well. No one going with Ocampo whatsoever. Errol Spence, of course, 23-0 with 20 knockouts. Even though this man's never been stopped, Ayaz, and he's never been down, he's not a big puncher himself. I just think he'll probably fold under the pressure that Errol Spence puts on him, and I think it's got to be a Spence knockout for me, Ayaz. I think you're going to probably agree as well.
I'm going to have to agree. I'm going to have to go with Errol Spence Jr. by knockout.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So yeah, we've agreed with most of our predictions this week. We've done, of course, the reviewing. We brought you the news. We brought you the first guest. Of course, just before we wrap up the previewing, there is one more thing to do, and that is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO World Title Challenger, Mr. Gary Corcoran. Gary, welcome back on the show.
Cheers, mate. Nice to have me.
It's always my pleasure, my friend. So, Gary, of course, we last spoke in the build-up to your last fight against Jeff Horn back in December in Australia. Of course, the fight didn't end the way you wanted it to. You were officially TKO'd due to a very bad cut that you sustained in the fight. You did show some serious character and guts. You forced Jeff Horn as well to dig deep himself. What do you remember from that night in Australia?
I just remember, I'll be honest, it was a big occasion. I was away from home. I knew, in my opinion, I had to knock the kid out. I had to knock or stop the kid. So I had to do the bad cut from the first round, and I had to get on with it. It was a really good fight, but I really think things went my way. It would have been a different fight, but. Fair play to him. He went on a box turns Crawford. He's another level. He's pound for pound, probably the best in the world. And no doubt, if I got a chance to fight Jeff again, but it won't happen.
And I want to ask you, were you surprised by anything? Obviously, you went out there and in some parts of that fight, it was kind of your style of fight. It was a little bit of a war at times, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was in the sixth. After six change. So I froze a bit at the stage. I got there, I didn't throw nothing. And I look at it and I was like, it was a very big stage. And I really do say I froze, but I've learned from it. I've learned a lot from it. And I think if I fought him again, it would be a different story. But it's a learning progress for me. I'm only 27, so I've learned a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, you earned yourself a lot of Australian fans that night, because I actually saw a lot of tweets online. The Australians were giving you huge credit. You put in a very brave and valiant effort. You also flew out to the States and did some sparring with Terence Crawford, I understand. How was that?
Yeah, it was. No, I'll be honest, I got an injury before I went over, so I had to stop it. And 2 weeks before, I'm supposed to go over. But visas got put back, so we had to sign for new visas, so we didn't go over in the end. But
you didn't go.
We didn't go in the end. But listen, it happens. It's learning. Hopefully it won't be the last time I've been called for sparring. But it is what it is. But if I had to go over and I had to try to dig through it, I would have probably been out of my fight next month and end of the month, and I couldn't take that risk.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was going to say to you, because I thought you had gone over there, but somehow you must have given the blueprint to Terence Crawford, because obviously he was able to beat Jeff Horn on the weekend just gone. Did you manage to watch the fight? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I watched clips of it. I haven't watched it all, but if you look in the first 6 rounds, me and Jeff Horn was coming toe-to-toe. I was pushing him around. So he knew what to do, but we have to say about Terence Crawford, he's the best in the world. I mean, he's probably top number one. And I give him that. He's a really good fighter.
And, of course, your own fight will be coming up in just over 2 weeks' time. You'll be fighting Paddy Gallagher in his backyard of Belfast. Tell us, Gary, what you know about Paddy. A lot better than his record suggests.
It's a lot better than his record, but I know some of the fighters who beat him, and I'm not going to take Paddy lightly. That's why I'm preparing what I always do with good fighters, and a lot better fighters than him. I know there are a lot better fighters than him, but that's why I'm sparring. I'm keeping a high what I'm sparring, and this camp's going very well. I'm at home myself, so it's only in Ireland. It's not that far. I have a family over there now as well, and it's a Frank Warren show, so I'm very happy. I'm very happy with this fight.
And this fight, like I say, will be taking place in Belfast. You've actually been on the road a lot recently. 3 of your last 4 fights you've had to travel. Australia, Wales, Belfast. Each time those fights haven't gone the distance. Do you see this fight? Do you see this fight going the distance?
It depends. It all depends. If I box to how I've been boxing recently, and it goes right what I've been doing, it won't go the distance. I'll be honest, I don't think it'll go the distance, but I won't be taking Paddy. Like, if it goes distance, I know how to do the 12 rounds. I know how to do the 12 10s. It's going to be a 10-rounder, and I work at a good pace, and I've done it a lot of times. So if it goes down, I think I'll outpoint him. But it doesn't matter to me. If stoppage comes, it comes. If I stop him, it doesn't matter.
And obviously, like you say, you fought on the very, very top of the game stage last time out. You say that the occasion got to you a little bit. This time, you're probably expecting a little bit of hostility when you go out there. Is there any danger of it affecting you at all, or have you kind of been there and experienced it all now?
I've experienced all of it. I've experienced it. I know that he hasn't experienced this kind of, big, massive crowds, big stadium. Full of stadium, people booing you, He hasn't experienced it. I've experienced all of that. I've been around the world, fighting good fighters now. So I know what level I want to get back to. I know what level I want to get back, and I think I'm levels above him. And it's time for me to show it.
And should you win this fight, obviously without looking too far ahead, I did want to ask, what do you believe will be next for you? I know that the British title's vacant. Is that a belt that you've got your eye on, or do you envision yourself fighting for a belt past British level when you do fight for a title next?
Yeah, what I wanted, I wanted a big fight. I wanted a big fight again and get on. So to give me Paddy Gallagher for my comeback fight, and I'm happy with it. But I'll take the British. I will actually take the British. It just means more to me to get it, just to get it. If I get it, win it, I'm happy to give it and move on, get bigger belts. But till I win that, I won't be happy.
And is that the belt that you see yourself fighting for in a realistic world next?
Realistically, yeah, I want it next. I want that title next. I don't give a care who it is, but I've been asked so many times how many fighters, and this fighters been turning it down. To be honest, fighters in turning it fights. So I don't blame them because it is a hard fight for them. And but I would just want the British, and then just to move on, give it whoever wants it after. I'm happy. I just want to grab the British, move on from there, and hopefully fight at world level again. I know I got the ability to that.
And of course, domestically, you've got the likes of Josh Kelly fighting this weekend for the Commonwealth title. That'd be a good fight for you. You've got the guy that beat Bradley Skeet for the European. He's taking on Frankie Gavin in November. You against the winner of that would be a good fight. You've got Conor Benn making waves at the moment. Is your eye on anybody in particular at all?
I'm definitely not on Conor Benn. No disrespect to Conor. I know he has his dad's name. He's very, what can I say? He's very enough. He has to learn. There's a lot of learning to do. Josh Kelly, he's got a good name, come from him, good amateur, good. But I know Kelly deep down. Me and Kelly, I don't want to go into it, but I think right now if Kelly fought, I think I'll beat Kelly, and the rest, Bradley. Me and Bradley Skeet were meant to fight for you. It didn't happen. So if it doesn't happen, I just want to move on. Even if that's Spanish geezer.
Yeah, that Spanish guy's fighting Frankie Gavin now in November. Just been announced.
Yeah, either one. I'm happy with either him or Frankie Gavin.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy. If Frankie wins, I'm very happy for him. But I'll fight him. I'll fight him anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, we wish Frankie Gavin all the best in his travels today.
Yeah, 100%.
And just lastly, Gary, I always like to give you an opportunity really to say anything you like. If there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to get across, anything at all, just say whatever you like.
No, I just want to say I know it's going to be a good year for me again to get my name back up there to the top. So hopefully keep watching, and it's going to be a good year for me.
Absolutely, God willing, my friend. But listen, Gary, it's always my pleasure, brother. Thank you for your time. Best of luck for June 30th in Belfast, and we'll catch up sometime after.
All right, cheers, man. Appreciate it for having me on the show.
Okay, now it's time to conclude episode 139 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, two former world title challengers, heavyweight Gerald Washington and welterweight Gary Corcoran. The Prediction League currently stands at myself on 41 points, Ayaz on 45, and you, the listeners, on 46. There are also 6 points up for grabs this weekend also. While we've been recording this show, the Triple G versus Canelo rematch has been finalised, and it will be taking place on September 15th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Excellent news that fight's finally going ahead, and we will speak more in depth about that on next week's show. Once again, if you do get a chance, please remember to leave us a review on iTunes. Other than that, enjoy your weekends, people. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next week.